YouTube, it's come to my attention that there's a certain Eastern Conference player that isn't getting enough attention. I really think there should be more people talking about this player, considering from my perspective, he has shown all of the symptoms of a player that could become a superstar in the NBA here very shortly. The player I'm speaking of is Jalen Johnson, the small forward slash power forward for the Atlanta Hawks. Jalen Johnson is in his third year in the league, only 22 years old, coming out of Duke University. And in this video, like I said, I'm going to be talking about why I believe Jalen Johnson has superstar potential in this league, and I don't use that word lightly, and also why I believe more people should be paying attention to him in his career, because I really think it's only a matter of time before he really ascends to that next level, to where everyone's gonna have to know his name, and he won't be able to be ignored much longer. Let's talk about it, folks. Now, I would have told you a couple weeks ago that Jalen Johnson should win the Most Improved Player award at the end of the 2024 season, but unfortunately a couple weeks ago he sprained his ankle, came back for a few games, and then sprained the ankle again, which I hope he recovers from soon in time for the play-in game for the Atlanta Hawks. But like I said, if I was giving the award out by the end of the season and he had still been playing by now, I really think he should have won the award, considering the massive statistical leaps he's taken this season for the Atlanta Hawks. Let's run through some of the numbers here and start getting acquainted with Jalen Johnson's performance in the 2023-24 season. And then I'm going to talk about what I think are his strengths and weaknesses as a player, the areas that he's likely to grow in to reach that star or superstar level, what it would take for him specifically. And then we're going to talk about, like what's going to hold him back and stuff like that. And all of this is just to, shine a light on his spectacular season and growth as a player, so that more people can be acquainted with him and his future superstar potential that I believe to be a real possibility for Jalen Johnson. Now, as I mentioned before, Jalen Johnson is in his third year with the Atlanta Hawks, drafted in 2021 with the 20th overall pick out of Duke. And his rookie year didn't really get much action on the floor, only playing 22 games, averaging 5.5 minutes per game, so kind of a slow start for his career. Last season, the 2022-23 season, he actually ended up playing 70 games with 6 starts and bumped the minutes per game from 5.5 up to 14.9, so about 15 minutes per game last season over 70 games, which is quite a big increase in his role with the team. Flashing some things like his spectacular athleticism, size and versatility on both ends of the floor. You could see something was there with this player, but maybe you weren't sold quite yet. Now, this season has been kind of up and down for the Atlanta Hawks. They've dealt with a lot of injuries. They just haven't played very well. And honestly, their team is not the best constructed, in my opinion. I think it's time for the Hawks to go into a rebuild. Nonetheless, Jalen Johnson has been given a very big opportunity to step in and be a starting contributor to this team. And man, did he prove why that was a great decision by Quinn Snyder and his staff. Jalen Johnson has almost doubled or tripled every single major stat category, in terms of like points, rebounds, assists, and stuff like that. So clearly this guy has been working on his game and has developed into, in my opinion, probably the third best player on the Atlanta Hawks this year. If you look at his stats this year, he's only played 51 games, right? Started 48 games, jumped up to 34 minutes per game. That's probably why he won't win the Most Improved Player award, because he hasn't played enough games to even qualify for that award, which is unfortunate for him. But if you look at all his stats, he jumped up to 34 minutes per game from 15, shooting a really efficient 51.3 from the field. Here's the big thing I think that has separated his play this season from years past, and why maybe Quinn Snyder felt a lot more comfortable keeping him on the floor. For the Atlanta Hawks, he has been shooting relatively well from behind the arc, especially when you compare these numbers to his previous 2 years. 35% from three-point range on 3.6 attempts per game. And I know that's not anything crazy, but for Jalen Johnson, that is a huge improvement from where he was just a couple years ago, like I said. But he is knocking him down, and that is really added a level of dynamic offensive versatility to his game. And we'll talk about that in a little bit. But an area he could improve, I think, is the free throw line, averaging 2.7 attempts per game on 72% from the line. Not the best in the world, especially I think the type of player that Jalen Johnson is. Getting to the free throw line is going to be super important to his offensive game in the future. So maybe you'd like to see that free throw percentage go up a little bit. But here's where it gets really interesting, folks. 16 points per game compared to last year's 5.6, which is triple. It's insane, right? That is a massive leap. He is a super strong rebounder, right? With me rounding up on this number, he's averaging about 9 rebounds per game, which, for a small forward, power forward who is in his third year, I think that's really impressive. The dude's a really strong rebounder and offensive rebounder as well, averaging 1.3 per game. Willing passer, averaging 3.5 assists, and a versatile defender as well, averaging about a steal and block per game from that wing position. Really solid assist to turnover ratio at an even 2. So clearly the numbers have really been impressive this year for Jalen Johnson. Let's talk about some of his traits as a player and why I think there is so much room to even go go further than his stellar play for the Hawks this season. Let's just dive right into that, right? So like I said, the numbers are really impressive, but the player behind the numbers and his traits are really, really impressive and would lead one to believe that he has all the necessary tools to be able to hone his craft to superstardom, right? Now, as I mentioned before, he is a 3 or 4 hybrid, so really can play any one of the 2 forward spots. He's about 6'9", which is really, really strong for a 3 especially. I think that's why, him at the 3 is going to be very, very tough for, opposing teams to match up with. 220 pounds, again, 6'8", 220. That's what he's listed as, but I think he's more like 6'9", 225 or something like that. Really, really good size for either position, Compare that with his elite athleticism. I mean, this guy is a freak athlete, right? For his size, he moves incredibly well. I mean, he's super fast, got really big strides, can get downhill really quickly, and he's a really, really strong kid. He's got a lot of power to his movements, and once he gets downhill, he is tough to stop in transition because not only does he have all these athletic traits and, great size to go with it, he has excellent touch and finishing ability. I mean, it's almost elite finishing ability in my opinion. Like, you've probably seen a couple of his dunks already. Guy's a really, really great dunker, can get to the rim, like I said, in transition so effectively. He's got really good handles as well for his size and position. We're going to talk about his handles a little later in the video, but basically he's a coast to coast type of guy. I think he can be, he can fly up and get a contested rebound, really great vertical athlete, and then, handle it all the way up the court in transition. And with his speed and power, can finish at the rim with excellent touch as well and get to the line, or just, be a lob threat for guys like Trae Young running down he runs the floor so well. And one of the things that impresses me most about Jalen Johnson is his basketball IQ. I think the guy is a really smart player and he seems to make the right plays a lot of the time. I don't really ever see Jalen Johnson trying to do too much. You see that with a lot of young players. They're not quite familiar with how winning basketball works in the NBA, and they have to acclimate themselves to that. Jalen Johnson is a really, really net positive guy on the floor on both ends, like I said, because he makes a lot of the right plays. He knows his limitations, he knows his role, and he just exceeds at every role he's given. I think that's a really, really great trait for a really young player like that who hasn't even, played a ton in the NBA other than this year and his, 16 minutes a game last year. My point is, he seems to have a really great feel for the game and what he's required to do on any given night, totally capable of doing, and doesn't try to do too much with the basketball, makes the right plays, a willing passer, not turnover prone. He's just a guy you can trust out there on the floor. And, with in my opinion, natural feel for the game, that's going to really elevate his ceiling because clearly he has a really strong basketball IQ and mind for the game. So that's really, really important when talking about the ceiling of an NBA player and how effective they're going to be to a winning basketball team. So, just a quick recap. Like I said, he's got great size for his positions. Either one doesn't matter. Even at the 4, he's got good size. Really, really strong kid. Like I said, got a good, solid NBA frame to him. Wide shoulders, good length for his height as far as I know. So he's strong, he's big, he is exceptionally quick and powerful downhill. He's got great speed for his size, and he's got a lot of natural skills for a guy that's 6'9" or 10, 225. He has really, really great hands, which is very important for a lob threat, which he is. He's a super high vertical guy, which at his size is crazy. He's got awesome touch around the rim, and he's got pretty solid touch on his jump shot as well from what I've seen, which is a really encouraging sign from a young player that just a couple years ago, you weren't even sure if he was going to be able to shoot a 3 consistently in the NBA. He seems to be willing to do a lot of the stuff that, the little things that make a great player great, which is, boxing out, skying up to get contested rebounds with both hands. Seems to really have a grasp of fundamentals and stuff like that. So all of these little things combine, and some of them are big things like his, athleticism and size and basketball IQ. That stuff, a lot of that stuff you can't really teach on this level. Like, you just can't teach size or speed, but, combine that with the skills that he's learned, and also has a really good ability to make passes that, again, go back to the basketball IQ and feel for the game. And there's certain passes that players can make in games that I would think you could teach people with film, to learn that, okay, this guy's open here and here's how you get the ball to him. But to just naturally know how to do that, I think is what I've seen from him. And it's a very encouraging sign. Like I said, I think his playmaking ability is really, really strong for this point in his career. Also a really strong handle for his size as well. His handles are really good enough to be able to run a break solo and blow by a couple defenders and finish at the rim and dribble in traffic and stuff like that. I think could definitely use improvement in the half court. His shot creation in the half court is going to be the biggest thing in my opinion. How good can he get at half court shot creation, ISO type scoring? Let's say it's 7 seconds on the shot clock and he's got to be able to break down a defender with his handles and his, contested shooting ability, and to be able to get a good shot against a solid defender of similar size and skill. I think think that's going to be a major point of development for Jalen Johnson, because so far from what I've seen, the half court offense is not so much, something that he really does that often. And that could just be like the Hawks, obviously have Trae Young and DeJounte Murray, who are going to, be handling the ball in half court and setting up the offense and running the offense that way. So you wouldn't really need Jalen Johnson to, but, he does seem to have a good like post game to him. Like he can hit a fadeaway turnaround from mid range. Like that kind of stuff is a good sign, I'd say. Like he's not, breaking ankles or, having like the biggest bag in the world, if you want to say that, in just one-on-one situations. But like I said, I think his shot creation, when the defense is set, is going to be the biggest thing that determines his ceiling. If he can get pretty solid at that, and you can rely on him to score individually when your team needs a bucket, I think that's the next step for Jalen Johnson, is to develop that, quote unquote bag. Listen, he already has the skills to be able to do it. He has a decent enough handle, and like I said, for a guy his size, it's a really, really good handle, well above average, I'd say. So the shot creation aspect to his game is definitely on the table. Like I said, he has all the skills to be able to get to that level. It's just a matter of putting those all together, and that's where I think his development over the next couple of seasons really comes in. If the Hawks are able to start a rebuild and get rid of guys like Trae Young and DeJounte Murray, get some really good assets for them, and kind of just give the keys to Jalen Johnson, I could see him being able to take that number one guy role or number two scoring role, work through a lot of those situations that he's gonna have to face if he wants to be a superstar or can be. So I think giving him a bigger role and opportunity next season or the season after that, to see what this guy's really capable of leading a team, or like I said, at the minimum second on a team, or a 1A 1B type scenario with someone else. Like I think that's what you'd want to be looking at if you're Atlanta, to see everything this guy's capable of. Do we project him to keep getting better, or is this the player that we're gonna have? Either way, I think his floor is what you're seeing now, which is a really, really, really strong and efficient role player who can excel on both ends of the floor on any given night and situation. Great rebounder, great transition athlete and scorer. He's got some handle capabilities, who can make the right plays and passes, and extremely good lob threat. Also, I haven't even mentioned, he's a super versatile defender from everything I'm seeing. I mean, I haven't watched every Hawks game this year, but it appears that he has a lot of capabilities on defense to stick on perimeters with a three or play the post. He definitely has enough strength and size to be able to hang with guys in the post. Really good chase down block threat. Those are kind of some of the things that I think Jalen Johnson is already super, super good at when compared to guys across the league at his position. So I just think sky's the limit for Atlanta. I think they really need to give this guy an opportunity to see, like I said, everything that is going to be in his bag and capable of. I think you got to give him a chance to prove that. And if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. At minimum, you have a guy that could be capable of being a number three on a serious competitor. Like I really do think he's that good already to be like a third option on a super, super good team that's in the playoffs and competing. So the only things, like I said, that could be possible for him to be held back from are like the individual shot creation while the defense is set in the half court, and playmaking I think is already there. I think he's totally good enough at that. Excellent rebounder for his position. Is he going to be able to knock down a three this consistently for his career? That's something I think that could use a little bit of improvement, is him shooting with confidence. He has kind of a slow release from what I've seen, so you'd like to be able to get threes off a lot quicker. And with his size, he's more of just a catch and shoot guy right now, but with his height and length, I think if he could develop some kind of a pull-up type three or mid-range, I think that would be really, really beneficial, because he has the size and length to be able to shoot over really tall defenders. So just stuff like that, I think. But honestly, I really do believe this, Jalen Johnson needs more attention and eyes on him as he grows in his career. I don't think he's getting enough respect or just the level of attention that he deserves this season for his breakout play. And I do think there is some real superstar possibility for him in the future to be a top wing in the league. And, I guess we'll see how it plays out. To be very interesting with what the Hawks do, in this summer with their franchise. Are they going to rebuild? Are they going to try to get someone else to come in and be that third star or whatever? But I think they need to blow it up. And I think this is a perfect situation where you already have a guy on your roster who could be him, could be the real deal. So, that's pretty much it for the video. I just want to bring some light to this situation and, really explain why I think Jalen Johnson is someone that everyone should be paying attention to right now and in the future. Make sure you guys drop a like on the video if you guys did enjoy it. It really helps out the channel and helps out the video. I appreciate you guys for watching all the way to the end. It really means a lot to me. Let me know down in the comment section what you think Jalen Johnson's ceiling is. I think superstar could be viewed as, just a little bit of an exaggeration, but I don't see it that way. I think there is a real possibility he can reach that ceiling if everything goes well in his development and he gets that opportunity. If you're an Atlanta Hawks fan, I'd like to know your perspective. Like I said, I don't watch all the Hawks games, but Jalen Johnson is really the type of player that I really always enjoy watching. So, I really think there's a lot of potential to his game and a super high ceiling, higher than people are giving it credit for. Anyways, subscribe to the channel if you guys haven't already. Thank you guys for watching all the way to the end. Make sure you guys have a great rest of your day today, and I'll catch you in the next video. This is your boy DeHave, and as always, peace.